fear, both an important mechanism for keeping yourself alive and also something that can seriously restrict your quality of life. And today we're going to be talking all about fear. So if you don't know, I once had a few phobias along with multiple sensitivities, and we're going to talk about that today. So if you don't know, I used to be acrophobic, which meant I was afraid of heights. I would freak out, have a panic attack when I had to go on escalators, on elevators, walk over like any high place. Like, I would absolutely freak out. And for some reason, I was okay with planes and certain rides, including drop towers and high swings. But I was pretty afraid of heights. Another thing I was afraid of was spiders. I would cry when I saw spiders. Not only spiders, I would also cry when I would see wasps, when I would see crane flies, which are those things people call mosquito eaters. And some people think are actually mosquitoes, but aren't. They're about this big and look like mosquitoes. I was afraid of many bugs, except ants, ladybugs, etc. I was afraid of spiders. I was afraid of harvestmen. I was afraid of crane flies. I was afraid of all that stuff. I also was very picky with certain foods. For example, I only liked the crust of the pizza. I did not like music at all. I would get nervous during performances. And some other things too that aren't at the top of my mind right now. But I just want you to know that I was not as fearless as I am now. And you want to know a little secret? I don't have any of those fears anymore. I'm not acrophobic. I actually just got done riding some pretty tall rides today. I'm not arachnophobic. I actually love spiders now. I love music now. When I go up on that stage, I don't feel anything except excitement. And you might be dealing with some fear. Many people have phobias and unnecessary fears that they don't need to have. Many people are extremely sensitive. And one thing that we don't do is sensitivity. I'm not going to say I'm fearless. I'm not going to say that I'm the person on this earth with the most balls, because no, I'm not the most fearless person. I have my own fears and weaknesses, and the majority of people do have at least some sort of fear or weakness. Actually, everyone has a fear or weakness. None of us are perfect. We all have our fears. We all have our weaknesses. Even though some people have a lot less weaknesses than others. And yes, I still have some anxiety and stuff, but like a lot of the things I used to be afraid of, like, Momo, the Babadook, like stuff like that, I'm not really scared of them anymore. And a lot of people are still dealing with irrational fears. Like, of course, it's okay and it's important to have some fear. Like, you should have a healthy amount of fear to keep you from doing things that will probably get you into trouble. Like, if you are pretty anxious to jump off a cliff with no parachute, that's a good thing. You should be anxious to jump off a cliff with no parachute. If you're hesitant with putting your hand into a fire, yes, you should be hesitant putting your hand into a fire. But if you're crying and screaming and throwing up because you had to get a shot at the doctors, if you're extremely afraid of deep water and for no reason, if you're irrationally afraid of anything, you need to get rid of it. Like, for example, I'm not afraid of bees. I love bees. They're cute. But one thing I don't want is to be stung by bees. So even though I'm not afraid of bees, I have a healthy respect for bees. I'm not afraid of fire either, but I know fire can harm me, so I have a healthy respect for fire. I'm not going to put my hand in fire. I'm not going to be swatting at bees. I'm not going to be sitting on spiders. You know? But irrational fear is not good. It stops you from doing what you're supposed to do. So it's been about 5 minutes and 30 seconds, so we're actually going to get into talking about how you can grow a pair and stop being so sensitive and afraid. So first of all, just to grow up, I noticed that as I got older, most of these fears just naturally disappeared. Like, I didn't have to do anything but grow up. And a lot of these little kids out here afraid of stuff, and all they gotta do to get rid of their fears just to grow up. But what if you're already grown up and you still have some stupid ass fear? Well, this is what you should do. You should face it. Face your fears. And I know that's cliche. Like, it's not that easy. But just face them. When I was afraid of spiders, you know what I would do? I would purposefully look up pictures of spiders. I would eventually start handling spiders. I would learn about spiders and realize that why should I be afraid of this bug if it's not going to hurt me unless I hurt it? And a majority of them are close to harmless. So, yeah. Maybe learn more about your fears. So let's say you're afraid of the ocean. What should you do? Learn more about the ocean. Expose yourself to the ocean. Your friends have a beach trip. They want you to come. You might be scared, yeah, but you should still go. Because staying in your comfort zone all the time is not good. If you're too comfortable all the time, then you should do something to make yourself uncomfortable. Because in this world, you're going to have to do a lot of things that aren't the most comfortable. You want children in the future? Not comfortable. You want to get into a good college? Not comfortable. You want to become a star? Definitely not comfortable. You want to get a partner? Definitely not comfortable. You want to really do anything big in your life? You're going to have to leave your comfort zone. You're going to have to face your fears. So whatever you're afraid of. Afraid of the ocean. Learn about the ocean. Yes, the ocean is dangerous. But you won't see me staying away from the ocean just because I know there's stuff in there that I don't like. Like, I know there's dead bodies in the ocean. I know there's germs in the ocean. I know there's animals in the ocean. I know there's rip currents. I know there's all that stuff. But it's not going to stop me from swimming in the ocean. And you know why? Because living itself is dangerous. You cannot live without the constant chance of death, without the constant chance of harm to your body. It's just not possible. So sitting comfortably on your couch, there are many things that could happen to you. You could suffer a heart attack. A meteorite can break through your window. A dude can break into your house. You know, so many things can happen with you just sitting there. So, yes, there are some things that are a little bit more risky. Like sitting on your couch is a lot less risky than going into the ocean. But the thing is, so many things are like, you should have like a good sense of safety. Like, you should not be an adrenaline junkie who just does a bunch of dangerous things and does not care for their safety or for others' safety. Like, don't do that. But also, just know that you're always in danger. You're just in significantly less danger in certain places than others, you know? And one thing your body likes to do is to make you afraid of harmless circumstances. Like, when you're up on a stage, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, maybe you get hit by a rotten tomato or two. But is that going to kill you or really cause much harm to you? No, not really. And other things people are afraid of that are, like, pretty unlikely to happen. the fear of, like, you know, a lot of things. Actually, all fears are rational. Most fears are rational. But the thing is that irrational fear is when your fear is too much. Like, instead of fearing stuff, you should just be prepared for stuff. Like, if you're afraid that you're going to, like, fall off a railing and die if you go up high, then just keep yourself away from the edge of wherever you're climbing. You know, just, like, take safety. Instead of being afraid and avoiding stuff, learn how to do stuff safely. You know? And being afraid of things that you can't really do anything about, such as death, it does not help. Like, we're all gonna die one day, and there's nothing we can do about that. And why are you wasting your time being afraid of it? Do what you can to make yourself live as long as you can, but just know that you can't live forever. So, like, just facing your fear is a good way to combat it. Learn about other people who have faced your fear. Look at pictures to trigger your fear. The best way to start is to start with information and pictures. Before you actually go in and deal with the fear, learn about information and pictures. For example, you're acrophobic. Learn about high places. Look at pictures of high places. Learn about the risks of going on high places. And you'll realize how little tragedy has came out of it. Many people are afraid of planes because plane crashes get a lot more press than car crashes. But just know that every time you walk down the street, every time you ride a car, bus, anything, you're in way more danger than you are riding a plane. And that's the thing people don't realize. Plane crashes just record a lot more because they're like a more big deal than car crashes. Because car crashes happen so many times a day that no one really cares. So yeah, you're gonna have to just go for it. Like, forget your fear, swallow your fear, just go for it. You're gonna be afraid, go for it, you know? So start with slight exposure and slowly go up to bigger exposure. So start out with learning the information about stuff. Move on to pictures. Then move on to controlled exposure. Then move on to exposure. And just, like, try to keep yourself safe. As you get older, you'll realize how irrational your fears are. But yeah, basically, the only way to get over your fears is to actually face them. You can't really get over them without facing them or without growing up, which happens naturally. Your fear is going to continue staying unless you face it. And yes, you may get panic attacks, but just know when you're having a panic attack, it's not the end of the world. Take deep breaths, calm yourself down, and you'll get over it. All right. And for the sensitive people on the internet, like, just know this is the internet. It's a place where you're going to hear and see a lot of things you don't want to hear, and a lot of things you don't want to see. And you're just going to have to deal with it. Like, you know, you're just going to have to deal with your fear, your sensitivity. If you're sensitive to something, continue looking at it. Like, when I found myself getting sensitive to certain things, I intentionally triggered myself. I intentionally went out my way to see things that triggered myself. For example, I don't like the phrase, none of your business. It's just not a great phrase. And every time I see it, it would trigger me because, like, it just can't wrap my head around it. Like, what the fuck does that really mean? So what I did is I went on Google, searched it up, and looked at pictures of it. Looked at so many pictures of it, and to trigger myself. And now I don't have that sensitivity anymore. I had sensitivity to noise and music. What'd I do? Well, I exposed myself to music. When I first joined the marching band, it was so loud, and I didn't really like the sound, how sharp and how loud it was at first. But as time went on, and I continued listening to this sound pretty often, I started getting used to it, and now it doesn't bother me. Same thing with performing. Eventually, after I performed multiple times, I just stopped feeling the anxiety of performing, you know? And a good way to face your fears is to do stuff with other people. Like, if you're afraid of doing social stuff, like, just do social stuff with other people. You're afraid of performing alone, perform with other people. You don't like heights, only go on hikes with other people. You know, teamwork makes the dream work, including the dream of having no fear. And it could allow you to expose yourself to a fear while having someone on standby. And for sensitivity, just trigger yourself. That's all I'm going to say. If you're sensitive to anything, trigger yourself. Even if you have PTSD, trigger yourself. No matter what happens, you might have a panic attack, okay, but just know you're not going to die. And if you're soft, trigger yourself. As you trigger yourself, you'll slowly get used to your trigger until your trigger goes away. It's gonna hurt the first few times you do it. You're gonna feel scared. It's gonna upset you. But as you keep on triggering yourself, eventually that trigger will stop being a trigger no matter what it is. So, go out there and be fearless. Go out there and grow balls. You know, we're all for balls over here. I may be female, but I have a nice pair of mental balls right here. And if you're out there, I want you to not be sensitive. I want you to be fearless. I'm not a fearless person, but I'm not a person with irrational fears or phobias currently. And I'm definitely not a sensitive person. And more people need to learn to be like that, because the amount of sensitive people I see out here is crazy. All right. Peace.